So it's Wednesday the, what is it? 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Wednesday the 9th of December. It's not more, well, it's more lunchtime, so yeah, I paused it and I thought, I can't say morning. I mean, I could. You probably wouldn't really know, but anyway. So I've been immersed in making sure I've got all my resources prepared for delivering, dealing with a coping with change course. I think I'd not long finished delivering a course on the psychology of human relationships, so this one now is coping with change. And yeah, it's really interesting when I do the courses, because as well as the actual, being able to utilise and learn more skills about the actual creating the materials and presentation and so on. Also, sometimes you find new materials and new resources, and by default you have to perhaps explore and dig a little bit deeper. It also reminds me of stuff I may already know, but it's good to be reminded of it and look at it for myself just as much as for helping other people with it. And a number of things to do with coping with change that can sort of help in terms of strategies. So one of the things that I was sort of really being reminded of was affirmations, and also the psychology really behind enabling our mindsets to stay more positive but also more flexible in its way of looking at things. And also I was sort of, when I was looking at it as well, I was reminded of the fact that the more powerful ones are actually the affirmations that have some link to a value that is important to that person. So for example, if it was, say, the value of compassion, then you may create an affirmation around caring. So it could be, I am a caring person, for example. So the values linked to affirmations is quite important. Otherwise, you can take on any affirmation, they can work okay, but to make it more relevant and personal to yourself, and also not just to keep it in your mind, I think to actually write them down and say them out loud to yourself. I think it's quite important. I think the power of getting them out of your head, and then so it's almost like you're creating the thought and the word, and then the speaking of it, you're then almost what's the word I'm looking for? You're giving life to it. There's another word I'm looking for actually, and it's not coming to me at the moment. So yeah, that's quite important. Also, I was reminded of, actually I looked up, I got another resource I've used before with a number of other courses, but I think it's always quite important, is what we call the circle of concern, the circle of influence, and a lot of changes that people can worry about and dwell on and get caught up in their own heads around, they're often concerns that they don't necessarily have, they might have a little bit of influence over, but generally they don't have masses of influence over. So for example, the weather might be one, another person's behaviour might be another, and so forth. Their health might be another. Whereas focusing on the circle of influence is looking at the things that you do have literally more influence over on a daily basis as well. So, I have influence over what thoughts I'm thinking. I have influence over what I choose to eat for breakfast, whether I even choose to have breakfast or not. I have influence over whether I speak to that person or not. And it really focuses on the, looking at the power that you actually do have, rather than what you don't have, and the things that take, the reactive stuff is often in the circle of concern, but they're not really things you can necessarily do a lot about, certainly in the immediate future as well. So it enables more, it actually frees up the energy and the mindset if you're focusing on things that you do have influence over and that you can do. Another piece around dealing with coping with change is what we call reframing. So these are all elements that can help your thought process in your mind. So you can't always change the actual situation itself, but you can change your way of looking at it. So for example, the other day when I had all my stuff in place and thought that there were certain rules in place for how one of the courses was delivered, and I'd taken great lengths to think about how the groups were going to be split and the physical distancing and all that, and then I was told the rule had changed, and that now that wasn't going to happen. And my immediate response, if I'm really honest, was I was actually I was unimpressed. I'll use those words to put it mildly. But actually, to reframe that would be to go, well, the change of the rule is actually for the health and safety of myself and the learners, because they're taking things seriously, so they care, and that shows that they care. So that could be an example of a reframe, and that reframe will actually, if I'm thinking that, rather than focusing on how much time it's taken me to do something and I'm really annoyed, and that immediately starts to irritate me. I get frustrated. I'm not thinking as clearly or I'm as focused, because my brain's rattling at 100 miles an hour, and I'm not keeping myself in a calm place so that I can react more productively to other things that may need my attention. So reframing is another quite important piece. The other thing about when we're reacting to changes that can occur is that we often go to an emotional place quite quickly, and that can then influence and affect how we perceive something. So one of the sort of things you can do, it takes practice, but when you're noticing that you're becoming emotionally involved in something that is starting to get you really irate or frustrated in some level, it's actually really useful to consider applying logic to it. And the way to do that is to perhaps ask yourself some key questions, because you need your the logical side of the brain to override that emotional aspect of it, to enable you to be able to step back and look at something more objectively. So if you're starting to find yourself getting emotionally involved in something that's really coming from a more reactive place, is there's sort of 6, there's obviously other ways you can look at it, but it's easy to think of what are called the W's. So we tend to focus on asking 6 questions that start with the letters W. So what's the immediate impact of this change? Why is this change occurring? What can I do about this right now in the immediate sort of response? Where can I perhaps look for further help or further support to deal with this particular change, and linked to that, who may I be able to sort of seek or support and connect with, that may be able to sort of help me look at other resources or to deal with it in a different way. When is it going to happen? So is it an immediate change that you've really got to get to grips with really quickly, or is it something that's coming up? So if it's not immediate within that next hour or so, then it may be that you can take more time to consider the 6 key questions to put yourself in a better headspace to deal with it. So that's another sort of tip, if you like. And I think on a daily basis or a weekly basis, I think doing really small things that would seem to be not immediate changes. But say, for example, you go a certain route somewhere that you go to every work or somewhere you visit, and so it could be you just take a different road, or if that's walking, you take a different route. If you are used to having the same breakfast every morning, have something different. If you tend to watch the same programmes, then watch something different. So it's just, these are small things that can bring you out of your comfort zone, but not too big that they're almost too challenging. Because at the same time, when you're making changes, and especially if you're creating them, you do want to keep some rituals, some routines, some consistencies at the same time, because it's actually having also some security in place that can enable you to make some of those other changes. But you're showing yourself that you can do that. You can make changes that are of your own accord. You're not necessarily waiting to have to react to something that is slightly more out of your control as well. So that's another idea. So guys, on that note, I'm gonna love you and leave you. So have the rest of a great Wednesday, and I shall speak to you later. Take care guys, bye.